Ladies and gentlemen, we now have an exciting panel discussion titled The Role of Gift IFSC in Making India a Global Economic Powerhouse. This session is going to be live on CNBC. This session will be moderated by Ms. Latha Venkatesh, an accomplished journalist from CNBC. She is the Executive Director and Editor at CNBC TV 18. Joining her are Mr. K. Rajaraman, Chairperson, IFSCA. Shri K. Rajaraman belongs to the 1989 batch of Indian Administrative Service and has served for nearly 35 years in various leadership roles in Government of India and Government of Tamil Nadu. Prior to joining IFSCA, he served as the Secretary to Government of India in the Department of Telecommunications. Welcome, sir. We have Mr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, Chairman, Aarin Capital and former CFO and board member at Infosys. He has served on the boards of SEBI. Welcome, sir. He has served on the boards of SEBI, the National Stock Exchange, the Manipal Group, and many other institutions. He is also the co-founder of Akshay Patra, the world's largest school meal program for students, and works actively with the government and regulators on policy recommendations and guidelines, and has served on several regulatory and consultative committees for various regulatory bodies such as SEBI, RBI, and IFSCA. Welcome. Joining us, we have Mr. Ashishkumar Chauhan, MD and CEO, NSE Limited. Welcome, sir. Ashishkumar Chauhan is an Indian business executive and administrator who is widely recognized as the father of modern financial derivatives in India and has played a pivotal role in shaping the country's financial markets. He was also previously the managing director and chief executive of the Bombay Stock Exchange. Please help me welcome the moderator and the esteemed panelist right over here. And I now hand over the session to the moderator, Ms. Latha. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, we are discussing India's fairly meteoric growth, at least over the past 3 decades. Now, one of the highlights of all economies that dominate the world, so it was Britannia about 200 years, up until 200 years. Before that, it was the Roman Empire, or various empires. They were always the financial centers. In London became a financial center because Britain ruled large parts of the world. And as India becomes the 3rd largest economy, it's a matter of probably months or years, or maybe a couple of years. It is natural that the aspiration would that we would also be one of the world's most leading financial sectors. Now, financial centers have usually been because of the pull of the big power centers. For instance, again, London or Rome or Athens or Constantinople. In its own time, these were the power centers. And therefore, they became the kind of the financial center of their time. So I would assume that India's time has naturally come. And to see how we get there, a roadmap has already been laid by the government, the form of getting the gift city in, the international financial center in. See how India also captures this separately. It's not as if the international financial center makes India a global power. I would think that the two should go in concurrence. One begets the other. And I think the panel is correctly chosen over here. We have with us Mr. Mohandas Pai, who represents that sector, the global fintech or the global tech sector. What was India's biggest gift to the world or biggest power statement? It is our ability to globally deliver technological services. So I would assume that India's power is represented in that sphere by Mr. Pai. The other big, power statement of India is India's financial sector, and it is best represented by India's first and still its best fintech, the National Stock Exchange. So I think the fitness of things that Ashish Chauhan is also with us. They both have already established India in the India's global footprint, their specific sectors, and Mr. Rajaraman, of course, to take the way forward, bring the gift city in place as the international financial center. Will we be the Singapore or will we be the London that was, and perhaps to some extent still is because of the it continues to be the power centers. Where are we in the of things? Now, since it is the dream and the vision lies on the shoulders of Mr. Rajaraman, I'm going to start with you. What is the given vision to you, or what is the vision you have? Do you think we are going to be a Mauritius? When I say we, I mean Gift City, I mean International Financial Center. Do you think the IFSC is modeled as Mauritius? Or is it modeled as Singapore? What is your vision?
Thank you, Latha for the very thought-provoking question. This has been engaging us for the last maybe 5 to 10 years on where we should be ourselves. So we started off in 2014 when enabling notifications were done. At that time, I think the thinking was, how do we get India-focused businesses which have been set up in other parts of the world, I think, to actually come back. They are doing only India business. So maybe a fund or it's a aircraft leasing company or a ship leasing company. So that thought process was a limited thought process. I think in the sense that that was what was the low-hanging fruit. So therefore, from that perspective, I think from 2019, when the International Financial Centers Act came about, I think a set of good regulations were drafted. And the focus was on how we will be able to ensure regulatory equivalence with the rest of the world, those competing centers, where all these India-focused businesses are located. So in the last 4 or 5 years, we have achieved pretty much that, in the sense that I think we have looked at in how we can ensure that our regulations are competitive, our tax regime is competitive, and also an enabling environment which is also near competitive to what obtains in many of these centers. So the proof of the pudding is in the eating, finally, I think. So we have now a large number of alternate investment funds, international banks, brokers, I think all of them located here in Gift City. I think it's a big step forward. But while we speak that, I think the focus has now changed to how this financial center can actually aid and assist in India's growth story. Honorable Prime Minister has actually initiated the thought of Viksit Bharat at 2047, which is a very challenging and ambitious task. So if you look at what India requires in 2047, it requires so many other things. I think it includes infrastructure, it requires manufacturing, advanced technology development, it requires a lot more reforms, perhaps, and also maybe improving in the quality and the quantity of talent, and so on and so forth. But an underlying in all these pillars, if I may say, is capital. So the question is that how IFSCA as a center can support capital formation. Because capital in India comes from two sources. One is domestic capital and then foreign capital. Domestic capital growth, I think many people who spoke here actually explained how domestic capital formation has been increasing over the years. From large capital providers, it has moved to retail households and so on and so forth. But while that may be so, I think our focus is on how we will make India more attractive to the foreign investors. So today, an investor sitting in London or in Singapore has the option of investing directly into Mumbai, wire transfer sum of money and then participate in the management of a company. Second option is that to come to Mumbai and set up a company. We have provided a hybrid option, which mimics a foreign jurisdiction in many ways. I think so. You are within India, but outside India for the purposes of your the regulations. Regulations. So our thought process is that we have created this hybrid platform so that foreign investors who are not yet here might find comfortable to come here, and we have seen a lot of traction, including a large sovereign wealth funds like Adia, I think, and big asset management corporations like Mirai Asset and so on and so forth. Many large people, corporations have actually found it fit to come here. So we believe that IFSCA will play a role in actually generating cost-efficient capital sources for Indian corporates to achieve their 2047 journey. Let me stop by also stating that India at 2047 is about enabling Indian corporates to become global champions. If you want an Indian company or corporate to actually become global champions, then the inputs that go into that company have to be globally competitive, which includes raw materials, capital. So we want to be that place where I think capital can be raised at globally competitive rates. So that's the final goal.
Before I come to Mr. Pai and Ashish, just a follow-up question. Rajaraman. So London does not try to get capital for Britain. even if there is a takeover of a Spanish company by a French company, the law gets written in London or the banker is. Likewise in Singapore, they are not trying to draw money for themselves. People wanting to invest in India put their office in Singapore. Families are putting their family offices in Dubai. So we also have that aspiration that a rich Latin American puts his office in IFSC so that he is just better placed to look at all the Eastern countries, the entire Eastern hemisphere. They're also a dream.
Very much. Because if you look at the foreign capital, it comes from various sources. Sovereign wealth funds, mentioned earlier. And I think we have the global pension funds. Many of the Canadian and Australian pension funds are invested into some of the funds here. Then we also have other sources like insurance funds. Then we have family investment funds, as you rightly said. Then individual investors. So a quite diverse group of investors. University endowment funds. So many of them are actually invested into GIFT City. So the numbers are small at the moment, I think, but we expect to expand as the trust and confidence and the certainty in the regulatory ecosystem here builds up. It's building up for sure.
That's the next step, you would say. Okay, Mr. Pai, on that note, since you anyway run funds and so does your son, what would make you, how do you compare IFSC, say, setting up a fund in Singapore or in Dubai or Mauritius for that matter?
Well,
is it as clement?
First, let me address our expectations. I think it's important for IFSC to understand what we want as Indians. We see IFSC as a platform for global capital to access India and for global capital to reside in India and access global markets. So it's for money to come in, and it should be done in a very cost-efficient, very good regulatory environment for sophisticated investors. The challenge in India is we're too stuck up with unsophisticated small investors and try to overprotect them while making sure that sophisticated investors get the raw end of the stick. So that should go away. That will be there. The second thing, which is very important, like he said, Mr. Rajaraman said, is how do you globalize Indian companies? Indian companies are investing overseas. So Indian companies can set up their holding company here in GIFT City and then start subsidies in other locations for strategic reasons. They could set up their global treasury here. Because once you have global operations, you get global capital and money, you need to have treasury. Now, Singapore is a global treasury center for Southeast Asia. All the money gets pooled there. And we should make this a global treasury for Indian companies and global companies too in this part of the world. I think that's extremely important. And then it should become a center for Indian companies to trade in commodities and raw material. And I think it's extremely important because we are going to be large purchasers of commodities in the future on the global market like China is today. I think that's extremely important. So for others to come in and access India and the global markets, for us to come here, set it up and access global markets for capital, invest overseas, etc., and for individual investors. We don't have capital convertibility, but whatever we have, Indians should be able to come here, set up the offices and expand their portfolio to diversify the portfolio in a very good environment. I think that's very critical. The third thing importantly is it should become a source of global human capital. Now, look at financial centers around the world. Tokyo has not taken off. Shanghai has not taken off. Singapore has taken off.
They have a language problem, which we don't have.
The language problem is solvable. But I don't think there's a barrier. But Singapore is taken off. And London is taken off. Dubai is on the way, somewhere there. And New York is taken off. Paris is not taken off. Frankfurt is not taken off after EU started its own thing because markets went out London. Why is that? The secret is human capital. We should have very high quality human capital residing in GIFT City. Now, in a world where the digital revolution is going on, markets are 24/7, trading is electronic, the place of residence is immaterial, we must create GIFT City as a global human capital center of, say, artificial intelligence in BFSI. There are 2 million people, 2 to 2.5 million people providing BFSI technology to the rest of the world, all over, with about maybe 1 million in Bangalore. The global settlements take place in Bangalore, global trading takes place in Bangalore, all kinds of services. Why can't we make it a global center? I think it's very important for Rajaraman and others to consider that, to make sure that we invite our big tech companies set up shop, focus on AI, BFSI. to provide for everybody else, get the big trading companies, Goldman, others who are already coming here, to expand here, because the environment, the tax efficiency, everything is here. Except that it's not a fun place. We've got to make it a fun place. Of course, they got some recent dispensation to make it a slightly more fun place, the Unix, which is very interesting. So you must make it a place of high quality residence for people and high quality of life. To me, that is the key. Why did Singapore succeed? Because quality of life is very good. Good quality education for expats, people to come here, in and out, freedom to move, a great airport which gives you connectivity. So the airport has to expand. The facilities around GIFT has to expand. It can be an enclave. But the future clearly for me is in technology, fintech. Because when you say I'm going to be a market, okay, London is a market, Dubai is a market, Singapore is a market, that's fine. Except that compared to Dubai and now London and Singapore, our local markets are much better. I think our local markets, you are bigger than LSE, right? I mean, LSE is shrinking and NSE will expand as you go to $10 trillion. So I think we must look at it holistically and work towards that. Because the human capital is what is going to draw many things. Now just imagine in future where trading is fully automated, trading is 24/7, trading is seamless, settlement is seamless, and then how does one get a competitive advantage? The competitive advantage lies in technology and access to technology, and that can effectively come here. So to me, that is a key element to make it successful rather than a me too. And of course, the poor, suppressed, oppressed Indians who reside within the borders of India were subject to deep regulatory constraints and to suffer every day should be liberated by coming here to address global markets. The last point is, now in terms of regulations, whatever foreign capital can do in India directly should be able to be done here. And that should be an easy thing, no-brainer. Whatever we as Indians can do as corporates and individuals to access global market can be done through platforms here. And something more can be done, and then create a a place where there's access to a lot of talent and high quality human capital. I think if you do that next 5 years, this will be one of the dominant global financial centers in the world.
That's an extremely comprehensive analysis of where to go. The only problem with this is you've taken away all the questions that I have written. Covers most of what I had in mind. But, you know, Ashish, I had more market infrastructure questions for you, where you are a master. But let me ask if there is a confusion in my head, or is there a confusion even in the conceptualization of regulation? Are we looking, exactly the question I asked Mr. Rajaraman, if we look at GIFT City as a platform to get better capital to India, we will have one kind of reforms. If we are looking at GIFT City as like Singapore, where it is not drawing capital for itself, but it is the hub where East meets West, or East meets East, or West meets West also sometimes. You know, if you look at it that way, I'll tell you why, because as we discussed before we came here, there can be turf wars if it is attracting to India. But if it is a global center, it's not a turf war. It is a competition with Singapore. So am I in a conceptual confusion? Are regulations in a conceptual confusion? What's your take on this?
Before that, I think I agree with whatever Mohan said, except that Singapore is a fun place. Ask people who stay in Singapore and they don't think it's a fun place. Right. So we are trying
after
to...
9 p.m. Because, you know, after 9 p.m., Lee Kuan Yew used to go to sleep when he was alive.
What I'm saying is we are trying to...
If you compare to Bombay, they may say it's a fun place. Bombay and Delhi are
so why I'm telling
difficult to manage.
Yeah, why I'm telling you this is we are basically trying to impose all the imagination we have about heaven into a place which is yet to be built, right? And that is where, I mean, in some ways in this room, I am the person associated with this project of GIFT City the longest. Mr. Modi visited my exchange in 2013 and he said, can you set up an exchange in GIFT City? And so since then, in a way, I have been associated with this project.
It's your baby since then.
Right. And in most people's mind, even in Delhi, that I am a champion for GIFT City. The way it works is, this is an international finance services center. It happens to be geographically in India. It might as well, if you had taken a sort of a small island near Madagascar and called it GIFT City, nobody would have bothered. Today, what is gift city, right? In a conceptual sense, it's like what role Hong Kong played for China for last 40 years. It became inside out, it became outside in, and it became outside to outside, right? So for me, the Hong Kong was the financial services center. It is still the financial services center. It is larger than Singapore by miles. But we get impressed because we go to Singapore and not to Hong Kong. But basically, what role Hong Kong played, raising $10 trillion for growth of China over last 40 years and actually allowed it to grow at 9-10% year on year, is because China had different laws. Hong Kong had a UK law and also the same language, and that's how it became a gateway to for outsiders to get into China. Similarly, for Chinese to move out, they used it as a framework, and today Hong Kong does basically outside to outside. That is Russian to UAE or
Morgan
UAE to
Stanley
Russian.
investment into India
So
comes through Hong Kong.
it's just that when we sit here in the geographic location of Gujarat, we think now it's our baby, so now we need to smother as much as we smother everything else, right? And that is what basically, if we want to actually create a international finance service center, it has to be benchmarked with Hong Kong, Dubai, Singapore, and that's where it has to be. Even the regulators have to have that aspiration. If they have a small little aspiration, then it's not going to happen. In 2017, when Mr. Modi inaugurated first exchange here, he said that he is expecting in 10 years' time for GIFT City to become a price setter for all the commodities that and all the financial activities that India is interested in. Right? Now, have we reached that in 7 years? Have we come closer? No, because again, we are giving small little sort of things, and we think, no, it's like today we are going to go to Champions Trophy in UK, right? Or in UAE. And we send first two opening batsmen, saying, if you make centuries, then I'll send the third batsman. Then if you make something, I'll send fourth guy. You have to send 11 people, boss, for the cricket match to happen, right? We are here giving some here, there, small little things and say, no, first you get me success, then I will try to give you. But who are we? We want to create this into an international finance service center.
Conceptual confusion
Absolutely.
should be resolved. That we should become aim if we position IFSC as a place where the world meets the world. We will probably be able to sell it in India to Indian regulators, to the powers that be better. Otherwise, probably India sees it like Bombay sees it as a competition. Oh, हमारा धंधा उधर चला जाता है. Can we overcome that by, conceptualizing it as where the world meets the world? We are not taking away India business. Will that help?
I hope it does, because today, if things happen in Singapore or Hong Kong or Dubai, done by Indians, some of them are sitting here.
We don't envy it.
Then we are happy about it, right? We have actually, exported even foreign currency market to Singapore in last 1 year.
Yeah.
Right? And so we are happy about exporting. And then after 20 years, somebody like Mr. Modi will wake up and say, no, bring the Nifty from Singapore to India, which we had to work hard to bring. But only after 20 years, till that time, everyone is happy saying, not in my jurisdiction, not in my even geographical jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is this. But people are saying, no, you can't do that also. So that is where I see the issue.
I do agree that probably the rest of India competes, like our business is going away there. Maybe we need to reposition it in our minds. It is clear in Rajaraman.
I think, well, Latha, the challenge is the regulatory cholesterol among regulators in India. That is the biggest challenge. There is no trust by a foreign investor in the Indian regulatory system. Let's admit that. Why is that? Because you change at a moment's notice. You issue a circular, just like that without consulting people. Hang on. I'll come to that. So, GIFT City was thought ab initio as a place where there's going to be stable regulations, where trust can be built up. Nothing is going to be changed retrospectively. It can be prospective. And that's why it was de novo constructed. That's the reason. Now, we've got to make it happen. The problem is we're not making it happen because we have regulations by whispers in the country which impact people because the players are the same. Like, I'm a bank in India. I set up an office here. Okay? And that's for thing. But I get whispers from the regulator in India, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I will hesitate. So what we need is one thing. One, the government to take a position. There'll be no retrospective amendment at all in GIFT City. Policy decision.
But they've not done that. They've been very clean.
No. You have to be very clear and write it down and issue that, please. It has to be a sovereign decision. And second, importantly, regulations done here will apply ab initio for everybody, including Indians and others, without the restraint of existing regulators. And they got to take a political decision, make it work, because it's a fantastic platform. Look, how can you be $10 trillion without being part of the globalized economy? Now, in terms of human capital, we are the true source of human capital for the entire world. 25 of the 50 CEOs of digital companies are Indian. Like Ashish said, you go to New York, you go to Singapore, you go anywhere, the same Indians trading. Why can't they do it from GIFT City? Why can't they do it from here? Yes, it's a geographical location for various reasons. Should have been in Bombay long back, but it's here. That's fine. I mean, you can grow that, but create an environment where there is trust. So all the things that you said, global capital coming, investing in India, investing globally, do it here. I mean, it's very good facilities. And Indians to go out. Now, Indians, liberate the Indians to come here and do it. LRS. I can go open an account in New York immediately. I can't open an account here because I'm constrained. Not that his regulations are not there. They're there, but there are whispers. You can't do that. I wanted to open an account here because, you know, I got some dollars because my ADR dividends. I want to invest overseas. Sid tells me that I can't open an account here because the banks are not ready.
I think this is a very major key
I think it's a very important thing. Look, we are 10 years. We have to fix that politically. Empower him to fly. Empower the Indians to fly. I mean, Ashish got his NSE market back from Singapore of 25 years, right? Now that's improving. But a foreign exchange market, the non-delivery market is gone again. Why? Because we took some decisions without understanding here. You must ask your banks to trade dollars, rupee here. This should be the price setter. If you can't do it, ideally it should be done in Bombay. But you know, because of all the things, if it can't be done, do it here. This can be an extension of Indian market. India's face to the world. I think we should have conceptual clarity and make sure that things work effectively with trust. The key is trust.
That's a very big key takeaway. That, you know, a political and an absolute black and white declaration given that cannot be retrospective changes, because that is something which bothers those who invest in India. We've had retrospective legislation to say that this is an enclave which will behave like global centers. I think that's one very big takeaway that we are getting from this seminar already. Okay, now Mr. Rajaraman, just to get an idea of the course so far. Say suppose your vision of making this a truly financial center is 100 meters. How many meters have you crossed? For the last 5 years, is it 10 meters? Is it 50 meters? What's the distance?
I would like to answer some of the questions. Paths that we after we started writing our regulations, ensure that we didn't cut and paste domestic regulations. So what we did was to look at what Hong Kong, Dubai, and many other financial institutions did. So our regulations are simpler, they are principle based, and finally, I would like to say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So, for instance, about 15 days back, the 200th fund got registered in GIFT City. So therefore, the journey has been just within 2 years. So if you look at how significant we are, so at the end of the day, somebody is not going to bite it till they feel confident about it, right? So then how far have they gone? That is the question. So today, the banks in GIFT City have actually lent about $50 billion to Indian corporates. The total asset size is about $70 billion, out of which the actual lending has been $50 billion, both in trade finance and project finance. So if you look at the funds in GIFT City, I think they have actually, basically the cash flow into India has crossed for $5 billion. So if you look at how significant it is, I think, so let's take the fund case. The total investments made by domestic funds in India has been only about $15 billion probably in a journey of about 20-25 years. Whereas GIFT City funds within a period of 2 years have actually managed to invest $5 billion into India. So we are already at about 10% of India's investments, I think. So I would like to say that the uptake has been pretty quick, I think. So because the regulations have effectively come into force in the last 2-3 years, I think, though the act was passed in 2019. So we believe that, I totally acknowledge that the journey is quite intense, will be intense because of the fact that we are not a brownfield financial center, which has grown organically. The comparison with London or Singapore, in my view, not correct. because
fair.
their trading centers, which over a period of 50, 100 years have transformed into financial centers. So here is a case where I think the center is just off about 4 years. So therefore, I guess our dreams are big, but I guess the place from which we have started is actually modest.
Can give some more numbers in terms of number of funds.
Yes, let me do that, I think.
Number of debt instruments.
Yeah, so if you look at the 28 banks that have come in here, they have not only, their ability is not only to lend money to Indian corporates, which they've done, I think about $50 billion in a short period, about 5-6 years, which is quite, in fact, the banks, some of the Japanese banks and other banks have actually grown very rapidly. Now, the other index of their performance is actually how they are able to attract non-resident and foreign investors to invest in retail deposits. This is also very important because as the liability side of banks is also very important. So at this point of time, the total deposits within GIFT City of the GIFT City banks has crossed $5 billion. And retail deposits has reached almost $1 billion with nearly about 5,800 investors. So we have just bitten off. Yes. No, and let me answer this question. I think the RBI in March of this year actually allowed Indians to open their foreign currency accounts here. And that has been enabled. As of now, I think to my knowledge, at least more than about 100 accounts have been opened here. So maybe you will get to do so, I think, if you desire. So therefore, the thought process is to attract non-resident investors, the PIOs, to come and invest here. So there are about 35 million of them sitting out there, I think, who also want to invest into India. And if you look at some of them, they are also investing into portfolio management services in GIFT City. I think the total PMS investments in GIFT City by NRIs has crossed $1 billion, I think. So therefore, the traction has been good. We now have to look at how to take it to scale. So how to maybe do a 10-fold or 100-fold expansion in many of these sectors. And that is possible, I think. Now that because let me put it this way. When a foreign investor looks at this jurisdiction, they will look at other jurisdictions which have been there for 50 years or 100 years or something like that. So they have established trust, certainty, etc. So trust will be slow to come. Let's be in a real world. I think let us be practical. I think trust will be slow to come, and it is our ability to actually maintain that trust and build it as we go forward is what counts. And let me say that this problem which Mohan was referring to in terms of, say, frequent changes in regulations doesn't happen here. So we are the only regulator which till recent times had a regulation on how to make regulations. So we have a mandate to review the regulations once in 3 years and do that through a market consultative process, and that we have adhered to very strictly. So therefore, we don't bring surprises on the market, and that's our way of doing things. So if you are able to consult the market and put out even the draft notification out for consultation before we do it, that's how we do it. We don't just give the intent. We also put out the draft notification. So the market knows pretty much what we are going to do. So to that extent, I think maybe, and not only that, I think now in recent times, what we have decided is that we will also notify the application of this from a future date. So that I think you don't say that notification is done today night. From tomorrow morning, I think.
Give the market time to prepare.
Yes. So therefore, I think all these points which Mohan said is something which I think we are adopting. I think we will try to get better even as we go by. So at the end of the day, in my view, is that the ability, the confidence that investors have in the jurisdiction, what counts. I think, let me also give one more number in terms of the funds. I think we have today more than 2,000 investors. I'm talking about the large investors, not the small ones, who invest more than about $250,000, $300,000. So there are more than 2,000 investors here from 58 countries who have invested into the funds in GIFT City. So therefore, that is a scale of trust and confidence across the world that we have developed. So now the question is simply, as he says, how to take it to scale. And we hope to do that, I think.
Latha, let's get the platform right. They've done a great job. And the numbers are very impressive. Because I came here a month ago and I didn't know the numbers. He told me the numbers are fantastic. I was very impressed. But the key is the sovereign in Delhi should state very clearly, IFSC is India's gateway to the world. They are going to make the regulations. We are not going to interfere. And you can trust them to make the regulation. That has to be clear. Because please remember, those who are to stay outside the IFC are all damaged creatures. They are beaten up, damaged creatures, right? And all the investors come till earlier are beaten up and damaged. They are very...
traumatized.
They've been pulverized because they impinged India. But he's a breath of fresh air. He's done a great job. Let's admit that. So he doesn't have to be defensive about anything. Okay, the problem is the sovereign has to take a decision. And future, like you said, how do you grow 100x in 5 years? That's what all of us should apply our mind and make it happen, because they're a fantastic platform for India and Indians.
Yeah, I'll tell you the numbers on the exchange side. Today, whatever was traded as SGX Nifty is now all the orders which the people put on Singapore Exchange, they are actually traveling to NSE International Exchange and they match. Today, every month we do more than $100 billion of transactions in just futures alone, right? And in terms of the bonds raised, the listed bonds on GIFT City is $85 billion. Although in 2017, when the first exchange was set up, I'd said, I'll be happy in 10 years if GIFT City IFSC raises $1 trillion for India in next 10 years and creates 500,000 jobs. We are still 3 years away, and I'm sure Mr. Rajaraman will achieve that. Probably only $900 billion are left to be raised for outside in, and probably outside. Imagine a person sitting in, say, Adia is already registered. If they want to fund an Indonesian company, they have a choice to do it from Dubai or Singapore or Hong Kong or just some Gurney or something. Why would they select IFSC in GIFT City? We have to be better in tax. We have to be better in non-interference. And that is what I think Mohan is trying to say, that our tax authorities have to also say that this is the international jurisdiction. We will not try to go and apply our regulations. And that is where he wants the parliamentary protection on that basis. That's how I would read the business people's mindset, that if a Adia comes and invests in Indonesian company, what role we have to play? We are just getting the jobs for our people sitting here who are actually good at finance related activities, right? But then if we keep on taking them out, then we will not be able to create that framework, right?
Fair enough. No, I think this is a very important takeaway, which I think should be headlined and underlined in the minds of the powers that be, that this enclave will be treated with the juristic rigor that we will not touch, we will not indulge in retrospective or any such sullying of rules. But Ashish, the question I want to ask you is, you have set up an infrastructure here in terms of getting the SGX Nifty here and Nifty futures getting traded. Give us an idea of what plans you have, because I think one of India's best exportable item is, the Indian companies that you can trade, as well as the infrastructure on which it can be traded. NSE compares and is better than most, I think almost every other exchange. What can you bring in terms of it?
In a way, see, just to give you perspective, on a daily basis, probably we get 20 times more orders than New York Stock Exchange does, right? If in your mind, New York Stock Exchange is heaven, we are 20 times larger heaven. If New York Stock Exchange is hell, we are 20 times worse, right? So whatever way you think, but we are 20 times larger in terms of number of orders and number of trades compared to New York Stock. So what we bring is the best practices there is in the world, in corporate governance, in technology, in risk management, in everything. And that's what it has happened so smoothly between Singapore and GIFT City that nobody has even sort of bat an eyelid that it has happened, and it's happening from July 3, 2023. Now we are in 25. So, and nobody even knows that it's happening, right? And today, almost, I've been told 40-50% of all trades in now GIFT City actually originate not from Singapore, but from the work which is done by the team here. So
what percentage?
40-50%, right? So that is where I think Bala and team also requires kudos. They actually have 96-97% of the business in GIFT City, but for me they should have 100%. That is besides the point. Point is, how do we get business on, say, Indian rupee, US dollars, or even US dollars and probably Russian ruble, right, which is not allowed to trade somewhere. You can actually create that product, and the regulators have to have that framework and also courage to say, no, we will do something unusual so that world comes and trades here. Otherwise, and for me, the other part.
Commodities, I would think.
Latha, one big risk that happened in the recent past is the sanction by the US post the Ukraine war. Now, as an Indian who wants to globalize, we'd rather have the family office here. And rather than in any other place.
All the family offices have gone to Dubai.
Exactly. We want it to be here because the rule of law will prevail and nobody protects us or hurts us better than our own government. You see, at the end of the day, as Indian citizens, our government protects us. We have the constitution and is enforced here. The constitution will be enforced here. So I think for Indian family funds, we must make it easy for them to come here.
This
You can always
assurance
fly
is
here.
most needed for the Indian
Yeah, and
family.
you can take the fast train from Bombay in 2 hours too after 2 years. And it should be here, not go somewhere 4 hours, 5 hours there, all over the place. The best place.
And since there are no taxes here, no CTT, no STT.
That was going
and
to be my next question.
Yeah, for me, I want to, at least in next 1 year, at least 30, 40 companies to do primary listings here in equities, and probably 500 in next 3 years. And I have basically one person sitting here has promised me 5 in next 1 year. So I will sort of hold you to that, right? So for me, I need to now create a capital formation framework. See, bond raising is one, which is also capital formation. But I need to have equity capital formation happening. We have got all the ingredients, all the funds, everyone coming in. And now let's start going and raising funds for our young companies or AI companies of Indian origin, which are servicing the world. Why wouldn't they be able to raise the funds here, right?
Okay, both of you have this penchant of taking away my questions, Ashish. But Mr. Rajaraman, what is special for a fund management entity, IFS? If you can explain that. And the more important question, lest they take it away, what is in the pipeline?
So the idea is to actually to provide a platform which actually attracts more foreign investors to come in a bigger way, and also the segment called NRIs and PIOs to come in even bigger way than they already do. Not as if NRIs and PIOs are not investing into India. Last year, for instance, the total inflows have been more than $129 billion.
So yesterday, actually, RBI announced, I was trying to read it in between, but your conversation is so interesting. I'm not able to concentrate. But for rupee funds of NRIs, rupee accounts coming here, Vostro accounts, there have been a series of decluttering of rules. So I think the 100 accounts you say would multiply very quickly. The rules look extremely lucrative. But please go ahead. Yes. Why is this good for fund management entities, and what is in the pipeline?
So the advantage of a fund, first of all, I think let me also talk about a fund manager. Fund manager here is actually, in a competitive environment, in the sense that he doesn't have to pay GST on his fund management fees. And the business income is not subject to income tax for a period of 10 years for the tax holiday. These advantages are there. So obviously he is able to provide more competitive services to his clients. The second thing is that I think the funds that he floats also have certain advantages. We have provided an accredited investor framework, enabling them to actually onboard investors with the least of the difficulties. There are certain provisions which actually support recently what we have done is that there is a fund management regulation which has been reviewed. So we are also reducing the minimum investment that an investor has to bring in to be a part of an alternate investment fund. So there are a number of advantages. There is actually the speed with which
tax advantages is GST.
That is a given. But the main advantage is the speed of onboarding, because normally in a market, I think the window for opportunities exists for a short period of time. So when a fund manager wants to raise a fund, then he needs decisions quickly in terms of approvals, etc. So our typical timeline is about 40 to 45 days, I think. And if for a fund manager, for a fund, I think it is even lesser, because now we have introduced things like filing, automatic filing, which doesn't need to be there's no need for an approval. So he has to file, and if there is an objection, we will communicate immediately within a period of 7 days. So these are some of the ease of doing business, I think principles that on which I think we have recast our fund management regulations. Therefore, a fund manager here would probably feel at ease, as he does in other jurisdictions. So that is how I think probably we see how, I think more fund managers can come in. In fact, the fact that more than about 140 fund managers have actually set up their operations here, so that the degree of confidence,
Ashish, clearly bond has an advantage. Withholding tax is 9%. Outside it's 20%. But equity has any tax advantages?
Many of the investors who invest in India for Indian companies end up paying the capital gain tax, which will be 12.5% now. Here it will be 0%, right? So today, India International Exchange is now 500,000 customers already registered, right? So there are advantages, and they should be, because this is not competing with India. there are companies which may not be valued in India as much as they are valued outside of India. If you go to US,
Oh, absolutely.
see, madam, my aspiration is that today, although the news has not reached our fund managers and our private equity players, that London is now going down, right? So if an US company wants to list a mid-sized company, it is impossible for them to list and remain listed because of the legal cost and also continual listing fees and all. So most of them are now actually delisting. UK is now delisting. Singapore in 24 was 30-year low on listing. There people are delisting because of the humongous cost, whereas India, especially GIFT City, IFSC, is actually very highly
Very
regulated.
propitious point.
Highly regulated. I want a US company registered in US to list here. And of course, a UK company or a European company or an Indonesian company or a Malaysian company to come and raise funds here because there is no tax for outsiders, but also from within GIFT City, there is no tax, right? And also that it's a highly regulated framework. It's not, plus the cost of legal activities is very low. It is in a way Commonwealth sort of framework so that people don't have to start understanding Chinese laws and Chinese script and all. And that's where I think we are in ideal position. And for me, this place has to have aspiration to not only help Indian companies to raise funds, but foreign companies to also raise funds and become a prominent sort of marketplace. And it works 22 hours a day. So when, in fact, Mr. Modi told me that he wants me to be working all the time zones. So when Japan wakes up, before that we actually start trading. And when California sleeps, after that we, no, not should, we do that. On first day, his ask to me was that you have to work 24 hours, and we have been working 24 hours. And that's what, for me, I will work all time zones, all markets will be served. Even if you are sitting in Peru, you will have the NSCIX mobile terminal on, of course, on Elon Musk's Starlink. You will be able to come and trade on me in microseconds. And that's what we will provide.
No, you don't laugh. He is saying the institution will work 24 hours.
Ashish is going to be
Not
in
every
trouble.
individual.
No, he's going to be in trouble. Headlines tomorrow. Ashish want 24-hour work days, not 90 per week. Man, you're beaten Subramaniam.
But sir, I have been doing,
Subramaniam now.
I have been doing
24
this.
hours.
I
work
could
days.
see that coming. There will be memes, but Ashish is very clear. The institution and the trading cycle works.
No, he said people should work 24 hours. Newspapers, please write tomorrow headlines.
I don't want other people to aspire, but I do work. So, but 2000.
Mr. Rajaraman will keep quiet. You know, he's not going to make comments.
Okay, look, I'll tell you the big issue that will come up. Network effect. You know, when you want liquidity and therefore you go to exchanges that are already liquid and therefore you don't get liquidity here. Liquidity begets liquidity. Network begets network. How do we break that chain?
See, we break the chain by having trading desk. Now, this has got to be a place for Indians to trade global securities. Okay? Now, I want to trade on NASDAQ. You come here, set up a trading desk and trade on NASDAQ. Now, global banks and Indian banks should set up the global trading desk here. For example, all the Indian banks are purchasers of securities globally, small amounts. They can set up the trading desk here. They can trade, the dollars here. Settlement can be done here. They can trade. Allow Indian banks to trade. Look at the bank's income statement. A large part of the bank's income statement comes from trading. Look at the Indian bank income statement. Where is the trading income? It's not, but they don't trade Indian securities.
Lending and borrowing.
Yes. Now we should train them because banking is a game of skill. It's not a game of regulations. The game of skill. Let them come here.
Originate and distribute.
Yeah,
Ours
I
is
understand.
originate and
They should
hold.
come here. And one more thing we should do with Mr. Rajaraman, we must make it a center for sovereigns to come and reside. Now, one of the Income Tax Act, sovereigns, if you're notified, you get some tax benefits or something, right? We should make it that all sovereigns, recognized by India as sovereigns, get full benefits. They come here and operate from here, either globally, they trade globally, or here, because sovereigns are about $20-25 trillion, right? There should be a place for them as a global market because we are secure from sanctions. Please remember, after the sanctions and all the things that happen, everybody's scared.
We are thankfully free from that.
Yeah, if everybody is scared, if I'm in Hong Kong, China will come after me. If I'm in Middle East, I don't know what may happen. Middle East is a good regulation. New York, Trump will come after you. So all these things are happening. So we should make it the great opportunity for us to target certain sectors and come and make it very vibrant.
But my view is that I think you have a good product all over, and a good infrastructure, obviously. So if you look at the market cap is much more than what obtains in the domestic area, because the regulations here are similar, and at the same time, I think you have a good product. So now, for instance, yesterday India INX also announced that they will launch the Sensex products out of the India INX. So I think these products which have got value in the market obviously generate its own liquidity. I think so. It's a question of putting those products to the market.
Well, if you're hopeful that the network will be effect will come, I'm very happy about it. But I would think that the ability to list, for instance, Infosys, you all went with the GDR to the New York Stock Exchange. So if we can with the ADR, sorry, the point should be simultaneous listing in IFSC, and we've had such lovely IPOs in the last 24 months. But the incentive to list in both exchanges and create a network here has still not come, right?
It's the other way around now. The way the new structure has been devised and the regulations have been issued is that you don't even have to list in India. You have to list. You can list directly into.
They're not listing there
IFSC.
because that.
Right. So it's
directly here.
And
No,
there
that's
are
exactly why I'm saying, sir, that network effect. People are not doing it, and they're still coming to the crowded Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange registered in India because you think that there is not enough traders and liquidity here, right?
No, but see, the question is that the listing opportunity that we have provided here is not for all the Indian companies. Yeah. It is for companies which have let me just give you the list. I think an Indian company doing a pure rupee revenue, this is not a place for him. So this is a place for persons with companies with an international play. Somebody with a global ambition. Let's assume that somebody launches a subsidiary in some other part of the world. He wants to raise funds for that. This is the place. So suppose, or if there is a foreign company who's holding companies, or foreign or an Indian company who's holding companies abroad, but having an operating company in India, they may want to raise the value in dollar terms here. Or it could be a new company like a tech startup or something like that, which probably feels that it has got better value in an international marketplace rather than India.
And actually, there are a bunch of startups which such ideas, born either in Silicon Valley or elsewhere, or even in Bangalore, but actually catering. Just recently had a company which came and spoke on the channel. They have some kind of a clean fuel, which is a fuel for atomic plants. And clearly their market is global. They themselves are, I think, NRIs or probably US citizens. But clearly that's the arena. Now
Latha, we are in the discovery phase.
Yeah.
See, the challenge is you got to go past the discovery phase to the trading space. So, the regulations have come. They're marketing globally. They're marketing in India. It'll take some time because people have to discover it. They're now discovering it. NSE flared up in the last 3 or 4 years because of huge trading, right? Suddenly it is a global story. Now, this has got to be a global story. Everything is set. Now, marketing and getting the players in the next 2 years will create magic.
As I think Mr. Sundararaman said, you suddenly the adolescence comes. So one has to wait for that inflection point. But what is your sense? Let it be a rapid fire question. Rajaraman, you first. What is your sense in terms of the journey? When do you think the inflection point comes? Is it 5 years away, 2 years away, or even earlier?
No, so now we have the government of India has put in place a fairly good tax regime. I think there are some small improvements to be done. I think which I'm sure will be done. So now we are in a place where I think there is, at least in some of the top segments like the banking, the fund industry, capital markets, where there is a fairly good clarity about taxation. There is greater understanding of the regulation. So I think these segments are bound to grow rapidly.
So your expectation is that in a couple of years we will not be talking about teething problems.
Yes, definitely not. Because every time somebody tests the market by launching a product or an entity, then obviously I think a problem comes out. So that phase is probably going to end in a year or two.
I was asked to moderate a discussion on IFSC, I think last year sometime. And when I always do a dipstick in the market. I ask commodity traders, brokers, AIFs, so what do you think? Have you all put your office? Last year it was desperation. अरे कौन जाएगा उधर, तो टैक्सी वाला उतरेगा तो, और उबर वाला बोला I will not come back with me, I'll come, and he charged me a flat 3,000 rupees. Those were the kind of desperate. Last 48 hours, when I took a same dipstick survey, yeah, already we have 5-6 people. Somebody said they have 9 or 10 people. You know, clearly the situation changed. अभी 1-2 साल तो लगेगा, फिर हम लोग का बहुत. But that was very hopeful compared to the, despondency with which I got answers. So clearly, things are underway, but I'm just trying to get a sense of the time. One issue which Behram pointed out when we were having breakfast, do you think we should work very hard to arbitration center?
Yeah, arbitration, to my mind, is a smaller part of the whole puzzle.
But still, it's.
I mean, you see, it's a part of the entire skill and human capital requirement here.
We have excellent legal skills.
No, I know. When first you got to trust the law to make it work, because how do you implement the law? See, arbitration is about implementation. That's the challenge about India. So I think, there are many things. Yes, we should have international arbitration center. Okay. Indians should come here instead of going to Singapore. I think it should be done. But is it going to really transform everything? No. What will transform is trading, listing, flow of money, liquidity, and largely trading, and people making money here. We want traders to come here and make money.
As Ashish said.
Yes. I think
if you
the
have
money,
money, you will work even in a desert like Saudi.
And we must get more people to come here. That's why I'm saying make it a global AI BFSI center. Okay. We should have 1 million people working in IFC or surrounding areas in Ahmedabad in 10 years.
Okay.
1 million.
So that is exactly my last question to all three of you. But just your sense of the time, since you have fathered institutions and you're literally the father of this institution, what's your sense in terms of the inflection point?
For me, I have to be directionally correct. And today, 10 years or 11, 12 years of running consistently, continuously, we have reached here. And I have no doubt, today morning, in say 10 minutes before coming here, I got a ray of hope. Somebody said, sir, I will do 5 listings on your exchange here, not in Mumbai. And I said, he's God sent. So this, I'll tell you, when SME segment on India was starting in 2012, the first company, we had to literally force that guy to come and list. The next company came after 6 months. And people used to ask me in press conference, saying this is a dead place. And now, every day we have 2-3 listings and we have to tell them now we will not allow you to list, right? So for me, 1-2 tries, and then you will see the floodgates are going to open, right? Like even till 2 months back, he was forcing me, saying, boss, you don't have local people or your own people participating in the Nifty futures. They are all orders coming from Singapore, most of it. Today morning, I have been briefed that now we are reaching there where majority is actually coming from non-Singapore orders. And so, and his job is to also push us in some ways. So we keep on.
Fair point. Now the soft question. What should we do to get that soft, bounce for the IFSC? We put a Walt Disney kind of, fun center over here. See, ultimately, even a hinterland India person, हमको Bombay देखने जाना, हमको कुतुब मीनार देखने जाना. So you want to go to Delhi, you want to go to, or a person trained in computer engineering in one of the Mofussil colleges wants to set up a startup in Bangalore. Aspirational cities. How do you make this an attraction? Soft question.
I'll tell you, one new area will be data residency. The data plans are coming. The new data laws are coming. Government can say that for Indians whose data is outside, the data can reside in GIFT City. So we can have softer regulation than India. I think it'll be fantastic. And there's, I think he's got something new which says that data of other countries can reside here and they will have the sovereign rights about the data. So we got to do something unique which other countries don't have. Because trading will take time, it will come. And he's doing a lot of marketing. He's going around the world and doing marketing. That's fantastic. And I think we must get startups to just list here to get liquidity and tax certainty for the investors. I think we should push that a little bit more because they don't have to raise capital. Whatever they raise can be raised here to a small listing so that investors get tax certainty, which is very important, and they get better regulations, and hopefully they can share between themselves.
Yes, sir, you're still giving me the finance reason. I'm telling you the fun reason for which you would come. You will go to Singapore not because I want to do finance. But just like I've heard that it's a great city to be. You may say it's boring. That I have not been there, so I want to think
Latha,
that
we don't have nightlife here. You know, they're very state conservative place. Now they got a license in the gift city to possibly have a nice drink in the evening, which is very exciting. But there are no people here who can drink. I mean, that's the problem. So I think it is a question of time. See, he's put everything in place. We must be a little bit more patient to come. And now he's got Deakin University, where we spent $30 billion a year.
university, making it a university town, maybe a.
You know, university town, and you must get some of the big universities to come here because they'll be happy to come here because they're coming to India for the first time and they feel that, regulations are much better here. I think it's cracked the problem. We must get many of them.
An IIM and an ISB over here will help.
Yeah, so the answer your soft question. Question is about creating that the social infrastructure around this place. So that has been work in progress. In fact, the government of Gujarat has actually launched a massive riverside property here. I think so. There is about 7-8 kilometers of riverside which will come up, very similar to the Ahmedabad waterfront. So that will definitely spur a lot of entertainment and other kind of public and social infrastructure activity around that place.
The aspiration to
Yes.
come.
Similarly, I think there are about nearly about 1,000 plus residential units which have come up here, and we expect student accommodation to come up. So all that will create I think maybe a life after 7 p.m. I think, which is very important. And finally, I think that, as you rightly said, the universities framework that you have launched with 2 universities already setting up shop, and the 3rd university already announcing its intention. We will expect at least maybe over the next 5 years, maybe about 5,000 to 10,000 students to study out of this campus. So which means that will create its own.
It creates
that creates the vibration and the positive life after 7 p.m. Which probably
Indore has got this reputation of being a student's city, and there's quite a buzz. People are keen to go and study over there. NM, I think, has opened college over there. Quite a few have.
Actually, if you look at this campus, just outside there is IIT Gandhinagar. It's like 5 minutes walk. There is PDPU, which is the Petroleum University. There is a IICT. There is a Law University, which are all 5 minutes, 10 minutes walk from here.
I wasn't aware.
Yeah, most people are not aware because you take gift city as if it's sitting in Madagascar. It is not. It is sitting in near Gandhinagar, and there are too many places to sit. It's just that they will not market it. But one of the larger successes of this place, where Mr. Modi's perspective of being the price setter is being sort of underplayed, that is the gold play. I think Mr. Gautam keeps on sending me one message every day with the hope that I will read at least once a month, which I read every day, sir. And he's now doing a 1 ton a day kind of numbers, right? So he's already, the gold exchange here is becoming, and I would urge our exchange to also launch a gold futures and options markets here. So that, again, we become the price setter. See, we are not the producers of gold, but we are 25% the consumers of the gold, and we have to become price setter here. And futures and options on gold will be the best thing, Bala.
Well, I'm told we have only about 5 seconds, not enough time to allow you all to ask questions. But if there is a pressing question from potential investors or potential migrants, the IFSC, welcome. Yes, please, sir.
What I'm saying is, if a 10% tax rebate is provided to employees, there'll be a flood of people. Then we would not be even bothered about talent.
He's talking about that employees here are basically charged the same tax as you would be charged in India, that is in Mumbai. But in his opinion, if employees don't get taxed or they get less taxed here, then and they will make it a fun place anyway.
But I will put it the other way around. I think since this place enjoys a lot of tax exemptions, I would encourage employers to give them a 10% hike in salaries.
No, but Latha, what we could do is we could create tax certainty for expats. Expats who come here and reside here for the global markets, they could have tax certainty because double taxation is onerous in both places. There we could tweak a law a little bit. That will be very useful. And he's done some great thing. He's got TCS, Infosys, Wipro come here and set up shop.
Yes.
If each of them have put up 5,000 people a year, we got the thing made. There'll be a fun place.
Yeah, that I think IT and tech will make a very big difference.
AI BFSI Global Center. AI is very important. Everything should be AI, even if you don't do AI.
But by the way, I think at least the top six tech companies in India have actually got their licenses to start their IFSCA related tech operations in GIFT City. So which means
We
that
have overshot our time, but I think we are leaving with a lot of confidence that springboard is ready. It is just that we have to spring up and compete with the international centers. We must remember that London had 200 years to become the trading center of the world and therefore the financial center. New York, the Boston Tea Party did not even happen in New York. It was not even an important tea trading center at that time. And then it got the 200 years to become the international center. They got the currency become the international center. The IFSC is operating without those advantages. Singapore had 30 years. After China became the giant, became the face or the gate entry to China and entry to the 7 Southeast Asian countries. It had those advantages. Even then, it was about 30 years before Singapore was in the financial sector map. So IFSC is about 2 years old, as you say, in terms of effective regulation. We would think that it would take only about 1/3 the time that Singapore took for us to launch, especially because India should by then become a very big powerhouse. Mr. Pai, Ashish Chauhan and Mr. Rajaraman, thank you very much for an extremely engaging discussion. Very optimistic takeaways.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you to all our panelists and the moderator for an enriching discussion on the pivotal role of GIFT IFSC in India's economy. And we wish good luck to the Spring Bowl. I would now like to invite Mr. Pradeep Ramakrishnan, Executive Director, IFSCA, to present mementos to the esteemed panelists and the moderator.